The court will now announce the verdicts. Verdict on count 1. We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, find the defendant Matheau L. Moore not guilty of murder as he stands charged in count 1 of the indictment dated the 26th of August, 2022, signed by all 12 members of the panel.
All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is For the Record. I'm Bob Bianchi. As you just saw, Matheau Moore was found not guilty in the death of his wife, Emily Noble. He was acquitted on 2 other charges against him as well, which included murder and felonious assault. The prosecution's theory was that Moore killed his wife and then staged it to look like a suicide, whereas the defense alleged that Noble really did take her own life. Noble's body was found hanging from a tree with a USB cord wrapped around her neck and knees on the ground. Although her body was decomposed, dental records confirmed her identity. Before I bring on my guest to chat, let's take a listen to the rest of the verdict, if we still have it.
Verdict on count 2. We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, find the defendant Matheau L. Moore not guilty of murder as he stands charged in count 2 of the indictment dated 26 August 2022 and signed in ink by all 12 members of the panel. Verdict on count 3. We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, find the defendant Matheau Moore not guilty of felonious assault as he stands charged in count 3 of the indictment dated August 26, 2022, signed by all 12 members of the panel. Mr. Moore, I think from day one, everyone's wanted justice for your wife, Emily. And I've heard that phrase a lot, and I think everyone truly desires that. But I think the jury has also said justice for Emily is not injustice for you, and they have reaffirmed that. I will just formally say I am terminating the bond previously set in this case, and you will be discharged, and you are free to go.
Dr. Tracy Pearson is a legal analyst. Doc, I want to talk to you about, no, I don't think, unless you've been in a courtroom and you've done this, if you look at what you saw there on the faces, and even Diane Menashe, she was going the way, she's a seasoned pro, the intensity of waiting for a verdict, the intensity of that judge sitting there with that paper in their hand, looking at the jurors, or the jurors looking at you, aren't they looking at you? What does it mean for both sides, the prosecutor and the defense? It is a very powerful moment. And one of the reasons why we're addicted to trial work, whether you win or whether you lose, very powerful. What were your thoughts about the reaction of the defendant and the attorney?
You know, as much of a rock star as Diane Menashe is, the verdict moment is the great equalizer amongst all lawyers. It is the moment where you find out if what you did worked for your client, whether your client's the government or whether your client is an individual defendant. And so that moment, I have felt that moment, and you could just see it wash over her face that, thank God, I was successful here, I was effective here. And so, you know, there's no doubt in my mind, she takes her cases very seriously. She takes her clients very seriously. She believes very much in the justice system, and it worked for her client that day.
Yeah, Joseph, I want to go back to a point for those who may not have been in the audience before. We've both been out at death scene investigations. We have seen confirmation bias. I can't count how many times I've told people to stop calling, whether it's a murder, an accident, or a suicide, the minute they walk in there like they've got some sort of divining rod that can figure it out. I've seen them go to the typical suspects. It's the divorce, so it must be the husband, and disregard all sorts of evidence. And I also saw when it's done right, and where they dot I's and cross T's, and they keep an open mind. There may be a person of interest, but they also do something very important. They eliminate any and all other suspects. That's a thorough investigation that doesn't give a defense attorney the opportunity to talk about how sloppy, and Dr. Tracy was right before, I think it was her that said it, maybe you did, she not only attacked the facts of the prosecution's case. She was right in their face, looking at them, basically saying, shame on you, I had to find these things. What do you think, Joseph?
Yeah, and that was quite powerful, particularly given again, I go back to forensics, my area. You know, I think about the nature of these findings, and it's up to the prosecution as to how they're going to use that information. These are, if the testing is to be believed and the assessment is to be believed, these are atypical findings. You know, and they are essentially, they line up with something other than suicide in most cases. So how the prosecution utilized that information is totally in their court, but she took the advantage here. She saw that there was an opening for her to move forward and cast the doubt in another direction, certainly away from Mr. Moore in this case, and that's the job of a really good defense attorney, and she did a bang up job of it.
Yeah. She actually, in a flourish, said to him, you know, proving whether it was suicide or murder, he wants you to end it right there. But there's another thing he's got to prove, that my guy's the one who did it. She was just really masterful.